What makes a naked sports bike good? I mean, they've kind of got to be able to do a track day. They've got to be kind of comfy. They've got to look cool, but I think more than anything else, they've got to make you smile on a normal road ride at normal road speeds. I might do that today, I might not. This is the new Z900, and it's going to be awesome. This is our first ride on the new Z900. It's been a right tease for this because I went and did some filming with Kawasaki, sort of present all the technical features of the bike way back before even the EICMA show last year. So I got a chance to sit on the bike, push it around the studio, read everything about it, but never to actually ride it. So I'm absolutely buzzing to get out on the mountain roads today and give it a spin. And a question I sort of came to this event asking was what makes a good naked sports bike, or whatever you want to call these things, street fighters, naked roadsters. What makes one good? How do you define a good one? With sports bikes it's easy, you just want it to be fast and handle really well. With a touring bike it's got to be comfortable and have useful features. Adventure bikes have to be good on and off road. Where does that leave one of these? Well, for me a good naked bike has to ride really well at normal speeds. That for me is the point of riding one of these instead of a ZX6, to pick one from the Kawasaki fam, because super bikes, sports bikes, are best when you're riding them at sort of 10/10ths, when you're thrashing out of every corner, whanging down the gears, hitting the brakes. Like, that's how a sports bike comes to life. But a naked bike, I actually think they need to work when you're riding at 70%, when you're just not chasing gears and not throwing it on its side at every corner, but just sort of cruising. And where the catch is, they then need to be able to cope with you getting excited and riding flat out as well. Maybe not to the same level as a sports bike, but it's no good having one that's lovely when you're cruising, but then when you start pressing on, ties itself in knots. And with naked bikes getting kind of more aggressive these days, there's always the worry that they're going to lose some of that ability to trundle along at low RPM and fire out of corners without having to change down gears. So the big changes with the electronics package on this bike, I think the most important one is the adoption of a IMU, inertial measurement unit. It's basically, it just gives the traction control and ABS systems more data to work with, so you can have a more sophisticated traction control and ABS. It's got corner and ABS now as well, and also the quick shifter. There's an up and down quick shifter, which I've not been riding it all day yet, but so far has been actually very, very good and smooth. Quick shifters are one of those things that have become the norm on most motorcycles now, and a good quick shifter improves your ride. Anything less than a good quick shifter quickly becomes annoying, especially if you're trying to ride smoothly or if you're riding with a pillion. I've yet to ride a perfect quick shifter in all situations. I've ridden plenty that do okay for a bit, or do okay when you're going flat out. One of the big new features that Kawasaki are very proud of is called Rideology, the app motorcycle. Yes, sounds like more than one committee came up with that name. But basically it's, connect your smartphone, connect your headset to the bike, but you get voice command, so you can get the bike to change rider modes by voice command, you can get the bike to do navigation by voice command, and it gives you turn-by-turn navigation on the dash. Yeah, we saw some like beta phase videos of it, and it's a very clever system. Voice command is useful. I'm on the fence with that stuff for two reasons. One, I don't really want all that tech interfering in my ride, especially on a sports bike like this. On an adventure bike or a touring bike that I'm going to be out on all day, I kind of get it, and I get the nav. I've yet to use one of these manufacturer developed bits of mapping or audio or integration software that works better than the ones on my phone. So I feel a bit harsh saying that, because Kawasaki are very proud of this Rideology app thing and they've put a lot of effort into it, but that's not something that I would buy the bike for personally. Maybe you're different, let me know. Would you believe it? We're in Benidorm. I had absolutely no desire to come to Benidorm whatsoever, but I've changed my mind. I've still no desire to go to actual Benidorm, but the mountain roads outside Benidorm, pretty damn special. Perfect tarmac, quiet, and good coffee shops. Come to Benidorm.
So the new Z900 has a whole bunch of changes on it. It doesn't look on paper hugely different. That power output's the same, the weight's pretty similar. Where it has changed is in the details. We're a bit bored now of always talking about the Euro 5, Euro 5 Plus emissions laws. None of that stuff's sexy, but this bike has been updated heavily to meet the new rules. Hasn't lost any power, which is a good thing. It's gained a whole load of mid-range, which is an even better thing, especially on a naked sports bike. And actually, it's gained some economy and better emissions. Now, that's not exactly Instagrammable, exciting stuff, but better emissions has actually put it in a lower tax bracket in certain countries, which won't be long before the UK follows suit, so that's a good thing. And better economy means, actually, more miles per tank of gas, which falls straight back into the awesome big tick fun category. And that's the stuff we like. There's a whole load of technical upgrades. Most importantly, I think, is that it's adopted the IMU, inertia measurement unit for the nerdy buffs out there. That's now integrated into the rider aid system, so the ABS traction control. We've got cornering ABS now. Improvements in that stuff means more safety, but less intrusive, so they don't cut in when they don't need to. And when we rode it hard on the road, yeah, good job. Actually can ride really quick without any intrusion from the ABS. That's a good thing because you can't switch it off. There's no track mode, there's no supermoto mode. The ABS is the ABS. The only way to switch it off is to do a massive long wheelie and hoik the front brake on, and that'll upset the ABS enough that it turns itself off.
We have now engaged what's known, will be forevermore known as the Fagan method, which is on a bike with non-switchable ABS, you do a big wheelie and jam the brakes on in the air, the front brake on in the air, which upsets the ABS system, puts a warning light on and turns it off, which means you convert the bike into supermoto skid mode. Excellent stuff.
So if you need to do skids, wheelies and stoppies, that's the secret to that one. Traction control, on the other hand, easy to turn off in the rider mode. You just select traction control, goes 3, 2, 1, off, and then burnouts, donuts, wheelies, all the very important stuff for your normal everyday road ride. What's it actually like to ride then? Because for all the talk of spec sheets, and for all the talk of more mid-range, for all me prattling around doing skids and wheelies, the most important thing is, how is it to ride on a normal ride when you're not being mental, when you're not being an idiot and chasing your mates, when you're just going out for a fun ride? And that for me is the Z900's sweet spot. That 4-cylinder engine is so smooth and has pretty much the right power wherever you go. You can rev the life out of it, you can let the revs drop to nothing, and it pulls cleanly, smoothly. There's no shuddering, there's no pushing you on in corners. It is kind of a Goldilocks engine for a spirited but not mental road ride. And the chassis matches up to that. If you really hammer on, if you really start pushing, you do find that at that very limit, when the thing's cranked right over, you kind of want a bit more to really put it down, especially if you're going to ride knee down. At that point, it feels a little bit soft and vague. But right up to that point, what it feels is compliant and confidence inspiring and easy. And it doesn't rattle your fillings out over a bump. Another good thing they've managed to do is, despite it being reasonably soft and compliant, it doesn't ever yomp itself out of control in a bad way. When you're pushing on hard, you get a little bit of movement, which gives you a little pat on the back and says, good job, you're trying hard enough. And that's kind of it. And that's exactly the point for this bike. If you're an absolute road lunatic head case who rides 10/10ths everywhere, this isn't for you. But if you're someone who loves a good road ride with your mates, especially on some sweeping, flowing A and B roads, you'll find this bike just works in kind of all situations. Now, I have got a caveat that. We're in Benidorm, which I had no interest whatsoever in ever going to. The roads around Benidorm, it turns out, are absolutely epic. I had no idea. And here, the roads are very smooth and very well surfaced.
Oh, what a road.
The bike worked absolutely brilliantly and was a hoot to ride. I want to see what it's like on a bumpy British B road. My gut feeling is actually I think it's going to be pretty good. It's quite compliant and the suspension felt very well controlled when we did push it up to that sort of upper limit. So fingers crossed it can keep that on a British road, but so far looks very good.
So the Z900 has had some chassis changes, got a new stiffening brace behind the headstock to make it more manoeuvrable, Also got the non-adjustable fork, or the single adjustment fork on the front. If you go the SE version, you get a fully adjustable shower and an Olin shock. This non-SE version though I haven't gone on it and immediately felt like I'm on something with cheap shit suspension. It feels well damped, well controlled. It doesn't feel like I'm riding something that's got the budget shocks on it. It feels good. Also radial brakes, radial Nissan brakes on this one. You get Brembo brakes on the SE and a radial master on the SE. The brakes on this one are fine, but it's that kind of nice shiny cool bits that matters to some people.
Now the price of this one, the base version is just over 9 grand. If you want the SE, which comes with, you know, the fancy forks, the Brembo brakes, the Olin shock, that sneaks up, yes, almost a couple of grand more. So there's a bit of a step up to the SE version. I've not ridden that, so I can't comment on what it's like yet. Rest assured, we will get one for a thrash back in the UK as soon as they're available. And for that money, it's right in the territory against some really competitive bikes. Most notably is the new Honda Hornet. I don't want to say what they're like back to back. I haven't ridden the Hornet yet, so we're going to save that one for a future episode of Bike World. But as of now, I don't think anyone does big, solid, smooth four-cylinder naked bikes the same way that Kawasaki does. And for a brilliant, fun road bike that is actually perfect when you're just riding a nice cruisy ride, this thing absolutely knocks it out of the park. Big Z still rules. Zed's not dead.
So on today's launch itinerary, we've finished all our being grown-ups and doing proper stuff, and now they've given us the sat-nav and left us free to ride back to the hotel under our own steam. It's me, Carl Stevens, Johnny Mack, and Al Fagan. What could possibly go wrong? This has been a bit of a genius move by Kawasaki, because this is exactly what a naked bike like this is for. Going for a ride on some awesome roads with your mates. And we're not going full hell for leather, we're not track daying, we're just riding an amazing road and having fun, and that it's a perfect way to test a bike like this, and it's a perfect way to answer those questions about, oh, you know, yeah, but the Hornet's got more power, or this is such and such a bike has got a sharper chassis and is a sportier setup and better, and you realise that actually it doesn't matter, because what matters is how much fun they are to do this on, and how well they cope with it, and how easy they make it. And this Z, I think two things make this bike for me. One is the engine. In the same way that you can love the character of a V-twin or the howl of a triple, you've got to love this big, smooth four-cylinder engine. It's something Kawasaki does so well, and this bike is no exception. The horsepower figure is a figure, it's a number on a bit of paper, but that super smooth drive you get all the way through the rev range, it feels lovely, and it really works well on a road like this. As well as the engine, the other bit that makes this bike for me is the sort of solid, chunky feel to it. And that's not me being diplomatic and saying it's really fat and heavy but trying to be nice about it, because it's not. But it feels planted. It feels rock solid on the road in a way that the MT-09 doesn't, and in the way that even the ZH2 doesn't. This doesn't seem flighty at all, it just seems absolutely planted, and you could just chuck it around willy-nilly and ride around with a huge grin on your face, which is what Zeds always tended to do, because that's their thing. That's brilliant!